you so much. I'm delighted to be here for this fabulous event to bring people together to connect and have solutions for sustainability, which is just wonderful. Bringing people together, as we're already experiencing today, can just spark so many chats and ideas and connections and opportunities to collaborate. And I'll share a bit more about how Climate Café may connect to that. We know that we're in a climate emergency. We're hearing some of the devastating impacts from around the world, and that we need to do everything that we can to mitigate the worst possible impacts, but also to adapt to what is already happening and help to make our communities more resilient. And what Climate Café is trying to do is create that kind of space. It's going to take us all to come together to achieve that, to achieve a more sustainable future. We have all the solutions. We just need to crack on and be implementing them, and we can be leading that from our communities. Climate Café, if you haven't come across it already, emerged from rural Scotland in 2015. It's nearly a decade old now, and it's been very much grassroots led. Essentially, it just simply creates a space for people in their own community to come together, to have a drink and to chat and to act together. And it's as simple as that, putting on a cup of tea, having a biscuit and creating a space. Most communities who have chosen to create that space do them on a monthly basis. And it's very informal. It's a pop-up space. It might be hosted in a library or a cafe or a school or a workplace, but many are hosted in church buildings. And there's a lovely synergy there. For some congregations, they like to have a climate cafe that brings everybody together from the congregation. For others, they like to host that space, which is welcoming and warm and inclusive and accessible to everybody in the community, to come together and have that bigger chat about what is happening in our climate, what ideas we might have, what we want to do, and how we might act together. There's no definition of action. It's led by the people and the place and their priorities at the time. And that's how the magic happens, because people in their own place know what the opportunities are or what the challenges are or who might be able to help out and bring people together to create action. So when these spaces emerged in 2015, it wasn't clear that they would do much more than create that space that people clearly value to come together. But actually, the action that has come out of them has been truly remarkable. Some creating whole organizations that provide energy efficiency advice and support to different actions, and creating all sorts of different diversity of action across the place. Essentially, a climate cafe is not about experts. You can bring in all sorts of prompts, information, speakers, films, poetry competitions, all sorts of things. They tend to be very creative places and very intergenerational spaces where folk get a sense of agency because they're connecting with each other and building relationships and doing more together. But the real bonus of Climate Café is the diversity of the chat. And that can be in a local community, or it can be when those communities connect up together across a region, or nationally, or now globally in the global network. So, very simple space, an idea that is open to everybody. If you would like to create that space, or where does that space happen in your community right now? If there isn't one, you might like to have a climate cafe that you could host and coordinate yourselves. There's no special skills or expertise, just creating a welcoming, informal, accessible space is the shared ethos. If that's something which you might be keen to do, you can get in touch with us. I'm here today. I've got a stand at the back there, and could talk more about what that might look like in your community and what that space might be about. And you can think about how the other ideas that have been learned from observing climate cafes as they emerge across communities right around the world. But each will be unique. And within those, the big impacts on our climate, the ideas that come out from conversations. Transport is one of our major impacts, the biggest source of emissions in Scotland. So thinking about how as a congregation or as a community, we can move around in a more sustainable and active way, thinking about active travel and sustainable transport, how to avoid the worst and shift and improve the modes of transport that we have already. On energy, thinking about these efficiencies and how to have these resilient buildings that are warm for the chat within them, and thinking about how to reduce fuel poverty, to make those who are going to be impacted most, as we see every day, are those who have probably done the least to cause it and are the most vulnerable and the most marginalised in our communities. So even more important to have an inclusive space to think about what that climate justice looks like. It might be food. Some communities immediately want to be talking more about food and thinking about how to make their food choices more accessible and sustainable, fresher, less processed, less meat and dairy, but we are having meat and dairy, hopefully better quality of that, and thinking about how to reduce the packaging, and more healthier, more nutritious food will be part of that. And also it will be about resource use. It will be about thinking about how we're using our water, but also all other resources, whether reducing our consumption, repairing and recycling and reusing and remaking. And all of these skills can come together, and everything has something which will connect or spark to somebody. But there's all sorts of conversations that can go from hyper local to super global in 10 minutes. And that's the joy of a Climate Café chat. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, come and have a chat today. You can register your Climate Café and locate it to your place so that you can join the global network and be part of a bigger family, sharing these connections. And now we can make these connections globally through online calls as well. So it is going to take us all, but we've absolutely got the solutions, and we've absolutely got the positivity and connection and opportunities to collaborate to really progress and have a more sustainable future. Thank you.